And we're live. How you doing, Jeff?
Good. There's the clap, not the wave again. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to mix it up.
Keep
yeah, there you go. I'm doing really well. How are things down in Texas?
Yeah, we're doing good, man. Sun's out. It's been out for a walk this morning. It's lovely. Things feel like they're coming back to normal. They're not, but feels like it's kind of coming back to normal. So
Okay.
yeah.
Good deal.
How's things in the van?
Yeah, you know what? Actually, not bad, but I mean, I don't get out that much. I mean, we have a forest kind of right behind us, so like our walks are kind of isolated anyway. You know, you pass the odd jogger and dog walker, but we just don't really get downtown much, or we're not really in a central location here, so we wouldn't normally see much sign of life up here anyway. We're up on the side of the hill kind of thing. So yeah, but anyway, it's good. Get fresh air, forest, nice nature walks with the family. So
I got that message anyway. I got that message back from the other day. Oh, sorry, I was in the forest.
Yeah, right. Yeah, cell phone stayed on the kitchen counter. So yeah, that's one of the things. I send a message and then I put my phone away and walk away from it. It's like, oh, whoops! I guess I should have waited for a reply. But
it's all good.
Cool.
We have a hello from the audience. Hello,
mystery shopper.
Unfortunately, because we're in StreamYard, we can't actually see your name. Sorry, but hello. Thanks for joining us.
Right.
So what's on the
Mr. or Miss F user?
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
On the docket today here, when to sell versus not sell your business.
Yes.
So I guess this could really mean a few things about, but I think the first thing we need to sort of talk about is sort of set this up is the different stages of a business that you like to sort of compartmentalize or have our clients sort of compartmentalize and sort of understand kind of where they're at. So The first stage is really a startup phase, right? Where you're trying new things, you're sort of looking at different keywords, you're trying to sort of figure out what's going to work and what might not work for you. The second phase, once you start to figure out what's working, then you enter in kind of a growth phase where you start to maybe sort of, grow your reviews, grow your product suite. You understand your target market a little bit better, and you're really working on growing your listings, growing and ranking, and that kind of thing. And then the last stage that we like to talk about with them is optimization. And here I think we more mean like optimizing for an exit. And when I say optimizing for an exit, you don't have to exit, but it's always good to plan your business and optimize the business as if you will sell, because it's just going to make your life so much easier. It's going to make you understand which metrics to look at, which ones are most important. You can view your business as an investor would, and whether you choose to sell or not is irrelevant, because the outcome is you've got a fully optimized machine that's maximized for profit. It's maximized for revenue. And so, you get to that point and you might not want to sell, and that's totally fair.
Exactly.
And sort of maybe you want to expand on these 3 points a little bit more, but basically you start up to figuring out what works, to growing those things that you find out what works, and then optimizing and streamlining everything as a third stage.
Yeah. And the way to think about that is specifically if you're wanting to maximize the value when you sell. If it is possible to sell in those other two stages of startup and growth, but the value will be very different. It won't be optimized. And I thought it would be cool to just talk through some common scenarios, because we're talking to clients all the time about their businesses. We're exit planning with different clients all the time. So we've got a few examples we can go through. Obviously, we won't tell you the brand and the client, but we'll give you the overview and then how we think about it and how maybe investors think about it if we've taken a deal to market that isn't in the optimized stage to sell as well. So we'll see how many of these examples we can get through in the short call today. But Jeff, we were literally just talking about a scenario before we hit live. So let's rewind a little bit and talk about restart that conversation with the vanilla approach to that. So what's the scenario?
Yeah, so I spoke to a seller who has some decent age in the business and a good category that he's passionate about, and things were going really, really well. And so started with the website, moved into FBA because that's, where the money was at, 2015, 2016, I suppose we're talking. And then, things were going great, started to crest that 7-figure in revenue, and, was altering some prices to increase the profit margin, and things were just going fantastic. Number one across most of the keywords, and he was just killing it. However, last year, I guess at some point, Amazon came along and had some questions about his listings, and they actually took down some listings for a short period of time. Now, this was just discretionary, right? They felt that there was something that didn't align there, and I'm sure it wasn't, it was basically just flagged for manual review. But when you hold the number one position and you've got competitors that you're holding at bay, that's a big deal. If, Amazon comes along and says, and takes your listing down. And in this case, this was not something that was true. They held it for investigation. He provided all the supporting documents within, 24 hours, 48 hours, or whatever, quickly, gathered everything together and submitted it. But it was a long time for Amazon. They said, yep, okay, yeah, you're right. But it took a long time for them to put the listing back up. And then it happened again. And it happened a third time. All of these were, and in this particular case, ended up being sort of incorrect. They flagged it for manual review. He supported all the documents for review. Everything checked out, but they weren't so quick to put the listings back up, and it cost him big time.
Yeah.
Big time. And, we're talking like thousands of units per day, losing ranking. Now we're talking a couple hundred units a day. You can only imagine what that does to revenue numbers, like just a huge tank. Now, this is taking a lot of work for him to sort of go back and sort of repeat his process to what got him there. But the frustration has creeped in now, and it's going to take some capital. It's going to take some investment on his part to regenerate things and try to reclaim those lost listing rankings, because Amazon's certainly not going to help you out. You know what I mean? Like they're doing just fine. It's not really in their interest to I guess come back and sort of blow more hot air into your balloon and bring you back up to number one just because. So now he's basically faced with, do I borrow a whole bunch of money or find some money somewhere to pump into this business to inflate it back up to where it was, or do I sell? Yes. That's what he's faced with. And the problem is, with some capital injection, he has no doubt, and I don't think anybody really has, in his world has any doubt that it's going to get back to where it was. But an investor's not going to buy potential. They're not going to.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll model their own projections, and when you talk about the last 12 months being the most important metric to value a business, in his case, it doesn't look very good. So is this the right time to sell the business, or should he actually go and find some capital to pump into the business and sell for a larger exit once he's got a clean trailing 12 months showing positive growth?
So a couple of things on this. This is a really tough scenario, right? This, and unfortunately, isn't common when you have a business with a single revenue source, like say Amazon, for example. The way to think about this is the simple answer is no. It's not the best time to sell for maximum value, but that may not be the only thing on the table here. And without going into this specific personal case here, let's talk general to say, well, if you're in if you're way down year over year, and maybe it's because of COVID right now too, maybe it's not a third, well, that's a third party reason, but maybe it's not the actual sales channel demand or something. There's been a change, you're down massively year over year. If you can still go and try and sell a business in this case, but what's going to happen is whoever buys the business or is looking at the business will model out based on the trend. When if this trend continues, when does the business go to zero? And then they'll work backwards to today, and that might be 6 months, it might be 12 months from now. They're not going to pay a 3 times multiple, which multiples of annual net profit. 3 times means they're fast forwarding 3 years of profit. If they don't think the business is going to last 3 years on its current trajectory, there's no way you're getting more than 1. Right? Because the only reason an investor will pay more than 1 times earnings, which is what you're currently earning, is because they expect to get a better return than what they're paying you, right? That's totally it. If the business is in a situation where where this is the new normal and it needs to be built back up, and maybe it can, maybe it can't, they're not going to pay you for that upside. So there's 2 options. There's get it stable, which potentially it could be stable right now, and explain the situation. So there could be a way to sell it right now, which could get a good result. It might not be a massive multiple, but it might be enough for him to say, look, I had a good run. I made some cash out of this. I'm going to let someone else take this. I'm going to go do something else, right? Having something else that you need to be doing or want to be doing is part of this as well, whether or not to sell. But in this case, again, the other alternative is to rebuild the business and say, what would it take to rebuild the business? I'm betting that it's not just capital in this case, it'll be time as well. So capital can only get you so far. So getting an investor on board may make it faster, it may not. It might be a question of what else can we do to get this back where it was, and how long is that going to take? And start plotting little milestones along the way. And as you're getting closer, then you could go to sell. Because it's also, if you can reverse the trend and show forward momentum, then at least what you're saying is true. Yes, it can come back, and here's what we're doing. You just need to keep doing this. Now, that may not give you more cash at close, but it'll potentially add some more value in the business. It'll probably be tied to those results. I mean, it's only fair that it comes through as it actually happens. So ideally, wait until it's reversed. At least the second best option is when it's turned the corner and it's starting to grow again and you can show momentum. The worst time to do this is when the trend is constantly down, because at that point it's happened, but it's like a knee-jerk reaction. Why don't I just sell this? You really want to at least stabilize things before going to sell. Otherwise, the offers are really going to be really bad. So it could even be worth selling through inventory. We've had this conversation with clients too, right? Where run the numbers, it may actually make more sense to sell through inventory as opposed to go through the pain and heartache and time, energy of selling a business.
Yeah, it's an interesting visual that you pointed out there. If you look at your year-over-year trend and you look at that timeline and it's trending down, if you were to take a pencil and continue that same path, where does it go to zero? And if you sort of take between now and zero, how much time is really left on this trajectory before it's zero, and how much time, energy, and resources is it going to take to move that up? And if an investor has to do that for you, it's not going to be pretty. It's not going to be a pretty offer. Yeah.
We've had conversations in the last couple of weeks with discussing offers on different deals. And something that one investor said that I thought was quite interesting, the way they framed this was, we have all this retail distribution, we have infrastructure, we have supply side manufacturing. We could essentially insert this into our ecosystem and it would become a real brand and much bigger business. However, we're not going to pay the seller for that. That's work that we're doing. I thought that was quite interesting and a fair comment, right? They're bringing all this leverage. Is it fair or not fair that you if without them, you wouldn't get there, right? So I thought that was a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It definitely puts that into a different perspective, because, you know, people talk about the potential and say, oh, my business could do this if you just do this. And if they just go that and enter this market and do that, business could be this. And it's like, great, I get it. But I have to do all that.
Yes.
Not you. I have to do that. So why am I going to pay you for that? Yeah, no, it's an interesting way to look at it for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, interesting sort of conundrum, and that's definitely why we stress a lot to, you know, spread the risk around and don't go all in on Amazon, because if something happens outside of your control, the entire business is turned upside down, and it's going to take a lot of work, time, effort, blood, sweat, tears, whatever, to really right that ship. Yeah. Or you get frustrated and sell when it's going down like that and get, you know, a low ball offer, and then it wasn't all worth it. So I think, you know, working now to spread that risk and explore other distribution channels, explore any off Amazon, you know, whether that's a Shopify site or mailing lists or whatever it is, but get some of that risk out of Amazon and somewhere else so you can sort of spread that around. And if Amazon delists your listing for whatever reason, then you've lost, you know, 30% instead of 95%.
Yeah. And that's, again, that's only if you're wanting maximum value.
If you just want to sell it, you know, like.
Yeah, that's the disclaimer. See, that's why there's so many buyers looking at Amazon-based businesses, for example, because the multiples are low, and they're set low because the risk is baked into that multiple. So there's an upper ceiling on what's possible with a single revenue channel business. We sell them all day, every day. Don't get me wrong, they still sell, but there's a ceiling of what it can be worth, even to the most strategic buyer, because of that risk. So what Jeff is saying here is, if you're looking to maximize, diversifying revenue channels is definitely something to consider if you're still in that growth phase and you're not optimizing for a sale. If you're optimizing for a sale, it's almost too late to do that, because you're looking at profit, right? Maximizing profit. If you're still in that growth phase, you're not done. You know, there's more products to do. You're really getting a handle on your target market. You're getting to understand them. That's when you can start expanding. And that's worthwhile testing and trying at that stage, monitoring what you're spending, of course, but building out, diversifying at that point will actually make the optimization and the value of the business worth a lot more when you do go to sell, if that's important to you, which it should be.
Right. Got it.
So let's
another. Yeah, I just wanted to, another point, I guess, I just sort of wanted to move this along here, I guess, is I do have these conversations with people from time to time too, is that, do they focus on, you know, like a decline in revenue? Does that matter so much if there's an increase in profit, or should they both be, you know, going up at the same time? Or, you know, where should people really focus their efforts on? Is it just raising revenue, or is it increasing the profit margin? Are they both important, or is one more important than the other? If I'm explaining that right.
Yes. Yeah. This is perfect. So this is talking about optimizing for a sale. So that third stage of the business where you're now optimizing for the sale. One thing we often work with our clients on in exit planning is to optimize profit. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes cutting down the portfolio of SKUs. Maybe they got too many SKUs, right? Maybe cutting that down, optimizing for profit is the thing to be doing. And most people have a negative reaction to that. I'll lose revenue. So true, a couple of real cases of this in the last 12 months that we've seen, where we've gone through this scenario or this exercise with clients, have actually done this. It's improved profit so much. In one case, it tripled the value of the business in just 9 months, but the revenue had actually gone down. And we had a line of buyers looking for this, multiple offers, competing bids, the whole thing, even though the revenue was going down, because the profit had increased so much, tripled the value. It was no joke. This is how you optimize. And obviously, the longer you're doing that, the better, because the buyer will feel more comfortable in that new profit being the normal, or that's the standard for this business now, whereas maybe it was lower before because you were still trying to figure out what was really working. So in that scenario, if you're moving from growth into optimization, a lot of times it's pruning down the line and optimizing for profit. As long as that profit's going up, it doesn't matter if the revenue is going down as much, because at the end of the day, the multiple's based off your profit anyway.
Yeah, and if you consider that, 30% of say 800,000 is a greater amount than 20% of $1 million. So it's that profit number that the multiples are going to be based on. So, doing whatever we can to increase that number is going to increase the value of the business, whether the revenue is flat or decline, whatever. But if it's the other number, it's the bottom number that we want to increase. Yeah.
And only when you're optimizing, when the business is ready to optimize, should you do that. If you're still in growth phase, if you're still figuring out what's working, it's not the ideal to maximize the value for a sale. You could actually be trimming down the line too early and things like this if you don't really know what your growth potential could be. So knowing which stage you're in, acting accordingly, if you're wanting to maximize for value, this is how to do it and how to think about it.
Yeah. Oh, good stuff.
Yeah,
and so you had a note earlier about overwhelmed. The word overwhelmed came up, I think, maybe yesterday in conversation. Maybe it wasn't even on the live, but I think, we talked about, distressed sellers, and we talked about, motivated sellers or whatever. And then one of the buyers, I think in yesterday's call, used the word overwhelmed. And I just thought that was funny. I was like, is that a nice way of saying distressed, or is that, anyway, but if you're feeling overwhelmed with the business, perhaps it's outpaced you, perhaps it got too big too fast, perhaps it's sort of beyond your knowledge or expertise or whatever, and feeling a bit lost, is that the right time to sell?
Yeah, so I think as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, we feel overwhelmed at different times, right? So it's not uncommon. I thought this was good. It was actually in the criteria, the buyer criteria we went through yesterday. They mentioned overwhelmed. And that's why I thought about this when we were kind of brainstorming this before. There's a few ways to think about overwhelm. There's a short-term overwhelm where maybe you wake up in the middle of the night and you're kind of like breathing a bit heavy or something, thinking, I got too much on my plate. That's one sort of overwhelm. And then you go back to sleep in the morning, you feel a little bit better, or you go for a run and you're fine, something like that. And then there's overwhelm where it's just stacking on top of you, and you feel like you can't get out of it. And maybe this is an okay time to sell and an okay reason to start selling. Again, is this the time to maximize the sale? Probably not. So take a breath, ask for some help, get some perspective on the actual situation you're at. So oftentimes if you have a third party that's not involved in the business, you just talk to them about where you're at, what you're seeing, especially if they're in a similar business model. They may actually be able to give you some perspective and say, actually, I've been in that situation before, here's what I did. Or actually, if you look at the business as a whole, it's actually doing pretty well. So how can you overcome these things? So knee-jerk reaction to selling. Selling is a long process. It's in order to maximize the value, it's quite a long, drawn-out process. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. So it's not fast and it's not the easy answer. So if you're just overwhelmed, look at why and what else you could do about it before selling, because chances are that won't maximize the value. So we could go through some of the common overwhelm ideas, or we can just leave it there. Or do you have anything to add on overwhelm?
No, but do you mind a shameless plug?
Sure.
Well, it's our channel. We can do whatever we want.
It's our show. Yeah, it's our show. We run this.
So before we take any business to market, we do a complete pre-sale business audit, and we take the seller through all aspects of their business, the same way a buyer is going to pick apart a business anyway, right? But what it is going to highlight is the actual metrics that investors really hone in on, because you might be feeling overwhelmed because you don't really know what to focus on. You don't really know what's really driving the business. You don't know what to double down on, and you don't know what to outsource, and you don't know what's important. And a business audit doesn't necessarily have to be done in preparation for a sale. We can do that anytime, and it's good to do. It's an investment that will pay dividends for years. But I just wanted to point that out, is that we often talk about our pre-sale process being very, robust and comprehensive auditing process that we bring it through, so that when we do bring a business to market, it's ready to be in that market, and we know what the market's going to pay. And the only reason why we know that is because of this audit piece. But we can do this audit piece anytime you want. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, you don't know what strings to pull and don't know what levers to operate to increase your profit margin, or what to concentrate on, what to cut, and you can't visualize your business as an investor would, then do hit us up for that, because we can do that audit for you and provide that as a standalone service anytime to sort of help you and put you on the right path to sort of a maximum exit. So I just wanted to interject that in there. Email is down there, sales at the FBA broker, if you want to talk about that. Anyway, I just want a shameless plug, but I thought that it was relevant because we do often talk about that pre-sale process leading up to a sale, but we can do that pre-sale audit just to put you on the right path towards a maximized exit, whether that's 2, 3, 5 years down the road. If you do it now, you'll know sort of how to. Anyway, I just wanted to
it's funny you bring that up. We had an email just before from one of our exit planning clients that we're aiming for a 5-year exit here. It's a long process, but they check in with us from time to time and say how the business is going. So we just got an update, and they often refer to the 3 things that they need to work on and how they're actually implementing this. So it's fun to actually see people implement our ideas and our suggestions, and then come right through to the other side whenever they're ready to sell, and see the outcome be so much better than it was if you were just in a vacuum trying to sell the business without doing this stuff. In fact, maybe I'll just touch on this. What were you going to say? And then I'll just
I was just going to say like it's not like biased. Like we have sort of like an objective sort of overview of the business. We're not emotionally attached to it. We can give you these metrics to look at without emotion, but we have the benefit of seeing both sides of the transaction. So we know what investors are looking for, and we can sort of bake that into, kind of, just to borrow your cooking term from a little while ago, bake that into, the auditing process. So you'll know, what appeals to them and why, why they see more value in that moving forward. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I was just going to say that we're actually looking at an acquisition target right now, and it's interesting to see when someone hasn't done this, the holes that are in the business. And these guys are looking to retire, so they're 1 foot out of the business already. But that's going to be interesting to run. That's actually part of our buy side process, is to run a pre-sale audit. We started with the initial questions and things. So yeah, it's night and day when you look at acquiring a business with or without going through this process. There's so much left on the table.
They're ready to sell because they're retiring, but the business is really not ready to, and is not in a position to be sold, and the holes are glaring. Just glaringly obvious where they're leaving things on the table. But as a buyer, it's like, okay, great.
We'll fix that.
We'll take care of that. But sure.
I was actually thinking, so just for full transparency, we're actually looking to buy this. Like I mentioned, we had a team call last night about it. And I'm wondering if we could do a case study on this, because I think it'd be really interesting. The turnaround. This is right for just turnaround, optimize, and sell. Because I've already gone through the growth phase. They just haven't done the optimization and preparing for a sale. I think we could maybe do some case study around that. That'd be fun. Anyway,
totally.
We've talked our way through the end of the show here. So do you want to just do a quick? Oh, actually, before we do that, if you're wondering which stage of business you're in, the startup, growth, or optimizing, this can actually help. FBAscorecard.com. If you go over there, we put together a PDF download. It's a grid that can help you identify where the business is across 5 different categories to know how buyers will likely view your business and how close to selling you actually are. There's also a video where I walk you through how to translate this for your own business. But this is a cool resource. It's free. You just go and opt in for that. You can check it out. That'd be a really good tool, I think, at any time to have a look at. And if you do need some help with stuff after going through that, or just in general, like we just mentioned, you can reach out to us, sales@thefbabroker.com, and set up a call with Jeff. That way.
It's opposite. It's weird. It's like, right? Corin, yeah. Absolutely. Sales@thefbabroker.com comes to my inbox if you want to talk about selling now, later, what you can do to sort of optimize the business. Anything. Well, just send me an email and we'll figure out a time to chat. Looking forward to it.
Or getting the pre-sale order, like you just walk people through what that's actually good for at any time in business. If you're wanting to ask more about that and see what that's all about, we can talk to you about that as well. Awesome. Well, that's it. We're done. Half an hour.
We're done until frequently asked questions Friday tomorrow. Yes. So if there's, we've sort of collected questions throughout the week, but certainly jump on. If you've got any questions, we can answer them live. Or if you have anything, if you need to watch it later or whatever, just put it in the comments and we'll make sure we cover that tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's 12 noon Central US time.
Yeah.
What time is that Pacific? 10?
10,
I think. You're
10
2 hours
o'clock,
behind, right?
Yeah,
10 a.m. Pacific.
Yeah.
1 p.m. Eastern. We won't do the whole world.
Are we gonna go through all the
Perfect. It's got to be about 7 p.m. London time. No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we'll see you guys again tomorrow. Thanks, Jeff.
Sounds good. Bye for now.
Later.